please enjoy this ad-free episode as part of our Academic Integrity series sponsored by Pangram Labs, the world's leading AI detection tool. Try it out at pangram.com. That's PANGRAM.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. I'm here again on another amazing episode of our Academic Integrity series, which I always have by my side, my co-host with the most, Bradley Emmy, CTO at Pangram Labs. Bradley, what's going on?
Not much, Elvin. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And you see how I changed it? Usually I say, hey, Bradley, what's up? I say, what's going on? I'm changing it up a little bit because it's the same thing over and over again. So it's good to have you back on as always. So you know how we work. We go right into it, and we want to get our guests in because we want to get talking about academic integrity. So she is Dr. Elizabeth Skomp, and she is the Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs at Stetson University. Elizabeth, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Very glad to be here with you today.
Well, we're happy to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time. So we always like to start off with a level set question. Tell us about what you do and how do you do it?
Well, thank you so much. I am, as you said, based at Stetson University, small private university in Florida, and I have been here since 2019 when I came to the university as Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences and also a professor of world languages and cultures, still hold that title today. And I moved into the provost role a couple of years ago, and so now serve as a chief academic officer, working with our colleges and schools, College of Arts and Sciences, School of Business Administration, School of Music, our library on the DeLand campus, College of Law on the other side of the state, and then a number of other areas that support our students and the university as a whole. So grants, sponsored research and strategic initiatives, institutional research and effectiveness, career and academic success.
Oh, that's great. And just a real follow-up question. How many students do you have?
We have about 2,300 undergraduate students, a few hundred graduate students here on the DeLand campus. And in our College of Law, we've got just over 1,000 students.
Gotcha. And is it hybrid where students can come on campus and you have online programs as well?
Thank you for that question. The heart of Stetson undergraduate education is face-to-face and largely residential education. When we look at our graduate programs, though, we do have a mix of modalities. And over at the College of Law, regular JD program, the full-time JD program is a face-to-face one. And we also, understanding that people have different needs and timetables, have a flex JD hybrid part-time program as well.
Okay, awesome. I just want to level set and get a background on that. So question that we're asking everyone is, how do you define academic integrity?
Thank you for that. As you might expect, provosts and chief academic officers think about academic integrity all the time in a variety of contexts. I guess I'll start with students because why we do what we do is our students, right? Our university wouldn't exist without them. And so Stetson University does have a student-led, faculty-advised honor system. And so students are responsible for maintaining academic integrity. New students sign our honor pledge once they matriculate to the institution, and they're asked to reaffirm that on a regular basis by pledging that their work is their own and that they've followed the requirements to present their own work, cite sources thoroughly and appropriately, acknowledge any appropriate help that they've been given, and above all, not do things like submit the same work in multiple courses. So As I say, the fact that students know that they are adhering to a system that was designed in part and is maintained by their peers, but advised by faculty is so important. And I would hasten to add that in the situations in which students might be found responsible for academic integrity violations, there's a real focus on learning opportunities. I do think as educational institutions, we have the opportunity when something happens that doesn't meet our expectations, particularly in the academic integrity realm, we address that most effectively by showing what the problem was and offering some sort of corrective pathway forward. So again, we do have a system in which students will lay out, based on their training experience and policies, what an appropriate range of next steps might be. So I do think that that's a very desirable aspect of our system. When I think about academic integrity, of course, I also think about how that pertains to faculty as well, and the requirements and stipulations that we need to adhere to in preserving and maintaining the integrity of our own research and scholarship, and that I guess on the highest level involves certifying research integrity to the federal government, confirming that we haven't received reports of research misconduct. But I think as we move toward that kind of annual reporting every year, it reminds me that academic integrity is in fact an everyday activity that teacher scholars, that's the way we define the faculty role here at Stetson, engage in. So every day and in every way, whether we're working with our students, we're advancing knowledge in our fields, we're disseminating that knowledge, whether in print or digital or presentation form, we have the opportunity to model those commitments and live them out to others as well.
Yeah, that's such a great, thoughtful, eloquent answer. Thank you so much for that. And I think you're actually the first person to mention faculty in the academic integrity definition. Like everyone thinks it's just like, oh, students not cheating. But it really is about kind of the trust between students and faculty and like having processes and, like the honor code that you guys have to maintain that trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that is a rationale I've used throughout my academic career. Before coming to Stetson, I spent about a decade and a half as a faculty member and academic administrator at a small liberal arts college. And I would often tell my students, even in my early days as a full-time faculty member, part of the reason that we have these honor code stipulations in place is that if a faculty member were to violate this in the context of their own work, there could be professionally devastating consequences. So it's important to understand, right, the stakes and the expectations in any context in which we are putting forward work and making claims about it as our own.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think actually you're also the first person that we've talked to that has an honor code that comes from an honor code school. So could you just lay out for our audience, like maybe kind of like on the ground, like in practice, like what does that look like in terms of like the difference between a school that uses an honor code versus more of a school that has a more centralized academic integrity body or kind of office or something like that?
Absolutely. So I think that our system does align very much with those at institutions where students also have some agency in and leadership over the honor system. And so the honor pledge is actually a very short and simple statement, and I'll just give you a quick paraphrase of it here. When students sign that honor pledge, they say, they frame this in terms of being a member of the Stetson University community. So it's fascinating to me, has been fascinating always, that the word student doesn't actually appear within the honor pledge. But when students do sign it, they agree that they're going to uphold the very highest standards of integrity in their academic work. Very standard that in a pledge or statement of this sort, students will say that they are neither giving nor receiving unauthorized aid on tests, assignments, other types of work. They're going to provide some clear attribution when using the ideas or direct words of another individual or a source. And they're also not going to fabricate or generate out of thin air some material that doesn't exist. And as I already mentioned, they're not going to resubmit work for a given class that was actually created for another course. Lastly, and this is an interesting component too, they agree that they won't destroy, steal, or make inaccessible any other academic resources. So part of academic integrity is not cutting off access to other academic materials for students. And then interestingly, and I think this comes back to my earlier statement about the opportunities that faculty and academic leaders have to model academic integrity, students pledge that they're going to set a good example for their peers through their actions. And they are going to promote a set of ideals. And I think that very commonly, if you were to look up the sort of principles that govern honor systems and honor codes at plenty of colleges and universities, you would see these principles and ideals of honesty, responsibility, respect, trust, and fairness. And so I would also note that quite apart from academic integrity, those are ideals that I think we'd all want to live by in a broader context as well.
Right, for sure. And like about the community, like I think that's so important because like I think like students often kind of look to their peers when they're kind of like making these decisions and choices about, you know, how they want to behave, right? Like I was just looking at some statistics and I saw some statistics on like, you know, students believe that if you use ChatGPT to complete an assignment or use AI tools, like I think 54% said that they believe that would give them an unfair advantage. And so I think like a lot of people are like, or a lot of students are kind of looking around at their peers and thinking like, okay, like, oh my gosh, like if all my classmates are using AI, then I'm going to be left behind. Like in some sense, like I might suffer a better grade or I might suffer a worse grade, or I'm just like not going to be able to keep up. And that might be one of the reasons why students might make the wrong decision in some cases, right? And so like I guess like maybe my question around this is kind of like how are with the honor code and like, you know, everybody kind of having to trust each other just based on faith, like how can you convince students that like, okay, like my peers are behaving with integrity, and I'm not going to be like left behind if I'm not, you know, making these correct choices.
Absolutely. So, you know, I would say that when students sign that pledge, they do make a promise. And I would also note that the honor system was devised in a time before generative AI existed. And so I think that what you're kind of moving toward is, okay, how should we understand these two things? How do academic integrity and generative artificial intelligence intersect? And what happens if we don't give students any guidance in that regard? So let me start there and work backwards. I think if we don't give students any guidance, then we're asking for problems. So I want to go back in time to fall 2023. When we could see the need to provide faculty some guidance in this area, but not limit their pedagogical or academic freedom in any way. At that point, I think we didn't know nearly as much as we do now about AI and how it would develop rapidly, but we already had cases of some faculty members leaning in and saying, I'd really like to utilize this and have my students utilize it in a course. And then at the other end of the spectrum, some faculty said, no way. I cannot imagine a world in which any AI use will be acceptable in any of the courses I teach. So how do we communicate that to students? We had a task force that worked through, a multi-stakeholder task force that worked through the fall 2023 semester. And it actually included some student members of our honor council as well. And one of the outcomes, one of the things they created was a set of 3 syllabus templates from which faculty could choose in terms of how generative AI would be permissible vis-a-vis the honor code and academic integrity in their course. So one of these was, students, please be advised that no use of generative AI on any assignment in any context is acceptable in this class. The other end of the spectrum was, you may use any generative AI tool to, the extent you desire. You simply need to disclose that for the purposes of this course. And then there was a middle ground. I will let you know the circumstances, contexts, and assignments under which generative AI may be used. And I will say that even in my current administrative role, I still teach 1 course a year. I'm teaching a junior seminar this semester. And I found for my own needs that kind of middle ground specification statement is the one that has worked most effectively for me. As we move forward into the present time, and I think the conversations have become a little more nuanced around academic integrity and AI. I think we've seen a lot more focused on the question of disclosure. So there seem to be growing numbers of faculty who will say, I want you, students, to disclose to me all of the ways that you've utilized AI from among this acceptable list of uses. And so then I think the integrity question becomes around disclosure, not so much around, is AI good or bad? Can you use it or not? And I also think that we've come to understand that the expectations and needs may differ widely across faculty members, institutions, disciplines, and so on.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting we talk about disclosure, because I think this is like a big topic that we're hearing about from scholarly journals and like kind of more like I guess like even higher than higher ed kind of writing.
Sure.
That now like all these journals are moving from the wholesale ban on AI to, okay, AI is okay as long as you disclose like what kind of AI was used. But we're still seeing problems where like people are using AI for, kind of the wrong purposes or not disclosing to a full extent, like the AI that they're using. Like, is this something that you guys are dealing with too, that like maybe a student does disclose, but they potentially under disclose?
I think that's certainly a risk that we take, whether we explicitly permit the use of AI or not. We know that AI detection softwares, at least as they presently exist, are not particularly reliable. And so that's something we've been wrestling with here. I think we could have a broader conversation about whether any sort of detection software is the way to go in terms of preserving academic integrity. I think you could probably guess that my preference would be to create a system in which trust exists within a community, and then you do everything possible to get individuals to buy into that and accept the norms and values of the community, as opposed to starting from a kind of punitive place.
Oh, of course. I will, as a CTO of an AI detection company, like I will like defend us a little bit and say AI detection is getting a little bit better. It's a lot more reliable than it has been in the past. But I think, moving on to the academic integrity side, like an AI detector cannot possibly be the only way that academic integrity is enforced. Like there's so much more context that goes into any of these cases than just a single score that's you used AI or not. And like you said, like in the context of these syllabi as well, like not all AI use is necessarily an academic integrity violation as well. And so moving to a world in which students are using AI all the time in legitimate ways, like Yeah, AI detection cannot be your school's academic integrity solution.
Well, and there may actually be other sources of the problem as well. So again, going back in time a little bit, I think we began to understand early on that if a student or anybody else was saying, I'm going to use AI as a source, not as a tool, that's going to lead to problems right there. So if AI is something that is helping you advance your research as opposed to conducting your research, right? That's a very different sort of thing. And we've had, I think, some good success with our students conducting some peer education around that. We have had some of the tutors in our campus writing center really engage deeply in offering some educational opportunities for students to think about that question of how can AI be utilized effectively and permissibly as a tool in your writing for a given course or a given assignment.
Elizabeth, I had a question. I want to go back to, and I love the way you broke down the 3 options for the syllabi. I thought that was so cool. Where are most faculty leaning towards? Are they like you in the middle, or I'm just curious? And this was what, fall 2023? Has that changed? You know, at first it was like more wanted to ban it, now more, tell us about that little story there.
So I do think that the interest and the knowledge have grown. So one resource on campus that we are very fortunate to have is a legal writing professor at our College of Law who is a national specialist in legal writing and AI. And so in spring of 2024, she was a member in fall 23 of that initial task force. And in spring 2024, she began a multi-semester appointment as the Provost Faculty Fellow for Generative AI and Higher Education. And so we've been working under her leadership to develop some policies, programming, and professional development for faculty, staff, and students across our campuses. And I'll also note that this year we have a team participating in AAC&U's Generative AI Institute on pedagogy, generative AI, and the curriculum. So some of our work has been done under those auspices as well. So to come back to the question that you asked, I don't have hard and fast numbers on how those are breaking out, but my sense from many conversations with colleagues is that we've seen some growth in that middle area, that there are some areas, particular types of computer science courses where students may actively be asked to work with generative AI in experimental ways. And then some disciplines where faculty have said, I'm acknowledging that generative AI may have a lot of uses, but for the purposes of this particular course, here's what we're going to be focusing on and why. And so I'll note that for us, part of our ongoing, unwavering commitment to academic freedom at the university is to have instructors and faculty make that decision about what's permissible, not having an institutional level decision made about how generative AI may or may not be used in a given class.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I'm still curious, actually. Are there like a significant number of instructors that are still just wholesale banning AI in the class?
So I'm not aware of that so much.
Okay.
Again, based on the number of people who have participated and wanted to learn more in the context of our college, school, university-wide conversations. I think what we've seen in our professional development opportunities that we've provided. So we have tried to frame our own AI engagement in terms of opportunities for learning. Again, we are an educational institution, and so as we have the opportunity to learn more and grow and evolve, that's something that we want to do, not necessarily pushing any members of our community in a particular direction, but remaining open to new possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. It is kind of tough because I think like, so many, professors, like, they didn't ask for like, AI to be dropped on them in their courses, right? And like a lot of them really just want to maintain the same thing that they've been doing for a long time. And so this tool comes in and like often it, can do their assignments perfectly. Well, it's like, it's kind of tough to just ban it because that students kind of given the opportunity, and put under a lot of stress and pressure will kind of give into these temptations. Like, I guess, like, is there anything that you guys are doing to kind of like help professors kind of move their classes along in the transition to assignments that aren't as tempting or like maybe like making more AI resistant assignments?
Yeah, so I think that the question in terms of learning goals and learning outcomes in all courses is, what is it that you are wanting students to learn, and how are you approaching that? How are you measuring that? So, if for instance, I'm teaching a class and every assignment I give or every paper comes back to me and it doesn't look like there's been critical thinking involved in that work, or if I don't know, have reason to believe that my students haven't done that work, then that suggests to me that probably I should undertake a new fresh look at my assignments and what I'm asking. And I don't necessarily think that only means having students handwrite tests with no technology in a room while they're being proctored by faculty members. There is a real opportunity, I think, in teaching and learning centers, faculty development centers. So we have a very robust faculty development center here at Stetson, with a faculty director who I think has been someone very interested in learning about the possibilities and also potential pitfalls of AI in pedagogy. And so our faculty director of our center is a member of that AAC&U team focused on generative AI and pedagogy. We also have some more localized faculty development opportunities connected to AI that emerge from that center as well. So, I do think that to your earlier point, Bradley, that the world may change, and we as faculty and academic leaders may not have asked for that, and yet we have to adapt to it. Something that I say in my conversations with every prospective faculty member who visits campus as a finalist is when I talk about our teacher-scholar model, I say that we can and we must evolve as teachers and pedagogues over the span of our careers. No one wants to be the lecturer with the literally crumbling yellow notes up at the podium. Instead, we change as our students change, as our fields change. Even if we find ourselves teaching some of the same material, there are new and different perspectives that continue to inform that. And I think that we have new and different opportunities to engage our students with assignments as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to go back to real quick, Elizabeth, is the honor pledge. Is this a requirement, or is this like voluntary? And are you getting any pushback from students? Have you seen anything happening in the last 3, 4, 5 years where, sure, I'll sign this, no problem, and now it's like, I don't know, let me talk to my lawyer. Let me run it through ChatGPT. I'm just
so I will say that all of our incoming students, as part of their new student orientation, sign the pledge. So, to my knowledge, we've never had someone turn around and say, I can't do this. And it is also the case that sometimes at the beginning of a class, at the beginning of a semester, faculty will ask students to reaffirm their commitment to that. Certainly, it's a standard part of all of our course syllabi. And that's something that we do expect faculty to put in there. I think that as I consider how honor systems and honor pledges maybe work across various colleges and universities, I think areas where pushback may occur or where enforcement or even, I guess, use of the system may be limited would be where the penalties are very, very stiff. Sort of, for instance, on a first offense, you might be suspended or even expelled. So in cases like that, when the stakes are high, there might be some reluctance on both sides. Well, if I suspect something, what if that, results in a student being separated from the community? So again, a system, by contrast, that has some kind of restorative educational measures, at least for a first offense. I think you might ask a question, if someone is repeatedly found responsible, well, then, maybe some more severe consequences would be appropriate. But again, as you heard from my earlier comments, I think that a system that is built on clearly articulated community expectations, values, and trust is more likely to succeed than one that is kind of framed in terms of draconian rules and punishments that are going to result if those rules are not followed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Elizabeth. So great conversation. Thank you so much. Before I ask you the last two, Bradley, any last questions on your side?
Maybe I'll just hit you with one more, which is just like, you said you still teach one class a semester, right? Like, I guess, like, how have you seen kind of AI change the way that you teach in particular? Like, did you see a lot of like, AI misconduct in kind of your early days? Have you managed to bring AI in more to your own teaching? Like, just kind of like, what has your experience been?
Yeah, so I should start by saying that these days I teach one course a year in the spring semester. So spring 2023, I think I could say with some certainty that this was a non-issue in my intensive writing junior seminar. Last spring 2024, I taught a very kind of small, specialized course to a group of students that I came to know very well. And we had some frank conversations at the beginning of the semester about how we would only use generative AI in particular contexts for particular assignments. And I didn't have any reason to believe that there was any deviation from that expectation. And then since that time, there's been such rapid acceleration of the technology. Are my students using AI right now? Absolutely. So I see that I have some students who will bring summaries of text to class and use those alongside the reading for the day. Is that okay with me? Yes, that is okay. If I saw someone using a summary only with no connection to the text or using a summary in lieu of the text, I don't think I'd have the same response. Similarly, when we conduct writing assignments for the class, said to students, you're welcome to use AI to make an outline for this course, but I want you to tell me if you utilized it. So you can't use it to do the writing for you. And the type of text-based work that we're doing in our course, where you're using specific textual citations, you're engaging with this work to bolster your argument, I haven't seen a sophisticated ability for AI to do that work yet. Now, if we were having this conversation a year from now, I suspect we'd be talking about it a little bit differently, maybe even a few months from now.
Yeah.
So Again, I've seen both an evolution in the technology and the way that students are engaging with it, but I'm trying to make my own expectations clear and give students the opportunity to lean into that in appropriate ways.
Yeah, I think this is just such a theme that's been kind of ongoing. Like knowing your students and knowing the way that they write and the way that they learn is so key. Like it's like if you have that piece of the puzzle, then like the AI detection piece is like trivial. It's like, oh, like I know this is just not my students. Like, regardless of whether it's AI or contract cheating or like whoever, being able to identify your own students' voices is potentially the strongest tool we have in the toolbox.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then students love the guidance. They love the transparency. Obviously, everybody does, so that's fantastic. All right, Elizabeth, again, this has been fantastic. Last two questions. Did we miss anything during the conversation that you wanted to talk about? Anything that's coming up? Anything you want to talk about Stetson, about you, your work, whatever you want to do? And then last question is, what do you see as the future of academic integrity?
Right. Well, again, it's been such a pleasure to talk with you both today. I really appreciate the invitation and talk about a subject that is on my mind all the time. We have a lot of exciting things going on at Stetson, but I would love to mention just one. So we are launching an exciting initiative, which is called Hatter Ready. It is the cornerstone of our Forward Together 2030 strategic plan, which has an academic focus on experiential, contemporary, and integrative learning. And Hatter Ready embodies that commitment to experiential, contemporary, and integrative learning, giving students opportunities to work very closely and directly with faculty in high-impact learning experiences, which embody the kind of relationship-rich education that we offer here at Stetson. So through the immersive experiences that students have through Hatter Ready, they can take what they learn, perhaps in a traditional classroom, have the opportunity to apply that again with mentorship and guidance from faculty. And we believe that through these experiences, they are going to continue developing the skills that will serve them well in their post-Stetson life, whether that's going on to graduate school, professional school, a first job, service, what have you. So I think one of the most exciting aspects of the initiative is that many of these experiences have already been recognized as areas of strength and excellence for Stetson, whether in undergraduate research, competition teams, work in the community, performances for our School of Music. So it's a really exciting time for all members of our community.
Wow. How do you spell that again? Hatter? Is it H-A?
Hatter. So at Stetson, we're the Hatters. So John B. Stetson was the creator of the iconic Stetson hat. So Hatter, H-A-T-T-R, ready. So these experiences prepare students for whatever's coming next.
Well, that sounds fantastic. I love that initiative. Thank you for letting us know. And thank you for this amazing conversation, Elizabeth. This has been fantastic. So first, let me outro my co-host with the most. You like that one? I like that one, Bradley. Co-host with the most. Bradley, MECTO at Pangram Labs. Thanks again, Bradley. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Are you the host with the most then?
No. Yeah, I'm not just. And our guest today was fantastic. She is Dr. Elizabeth Skomp, and she's the Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs at Stetson University. Elizabeth, thank you so very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just erupted.
Thank you for listening. This episode is part of our Academic Integrity series, sponsored by Pangram Labs, the world's leading AI detection technology. Try it out at pangram.com. That's PANGRAM.com.